where we discuss how to communicate stories efficiently in that 90-second to 2-minute window, wherein you are trying to explain the basics of your story, who's the protagonist, what are they trying to do, and just help your reader or listener kind of imagine the entire story. We say you can see the movie if the person that you're talking to and explaining the story to can imagine all the key sort of set pieces and where it's kind of going. They say they can see the movie. If someone is saying that they can't see the movie, it might come down to the pitch that you are giving them, or it might be something wrong with the idea itself, or it might be some larger problem with the story that you're giving them. So it can be tough to tell sometimes, and so your job is just to make it as good as you possibly can, to write as strong of a pitch as you can, and to practice it, and to make sure that you know what you're going to say, where you're going, and we're not just making it up on the spot. All right, so let's look at our overview. If you're brand new here, Script Camp is a screenwriting community focused on helping you take your concept from idea to first draft to polished script. We have lots of free classes and events and workshops, and also some paid VIP member classes, bootcamps, and labs as well, which are on Saturdays. Here's a little about me. I won't go too much into me now because we're on the 4th week of this course, and we want to make sure to have time to listen to and respond to and give feedback to the pitches that you've been working on for these last 4 weeks. These are profiles for some of our guest hosts that we've had throughout the class. We had last time Conor Rowan on, who is a specialist in TV and knows much more about pitching TV shows than me. We had Scott Barkin on, who is another feature horror thriller writer like I am. Let's look at this overview of the boot camps really quick. We go from idea to first draft using the step-by-step practical method. 2-hour weekly classes, 8 weeks for the feature, 6 weeks for pilot, 6 weeks for stage play. That class just ended, but we have, for paying members, we have access to our video library, which has recordings of all the previous classes. I think there's 2 of those playwriting classes up on our YouTube channel. We have 4 weeks for the rewrite and 4 weeks for this pitch bootcamp, which is what we've been working on in this channel and in this class up until now. So, here was the schedule, and here's what we've been working on. Week 1 was all about organization. That's when we had our guest Scott on, and that's where we just started talking about the basics and the groundwork for these 1 to 2 minute long pitches we had a lot of features that first week, but as the class went on, a lot of students shifted more to doing TV pilots, which is totally fine, but just remember that when you are pitching a TV show, you should not rely on later seasons or information that will not come up for many episodes. You want to communicate what happens in the pilot and suggest the general arc for the rest of the show. So don't take us through the entire thing, and don't rely on, it being a super successful show for the story to make sense. So as of that first week, you have been working on a 90-second to 2-minute long pitch for whatever it is that you're working on, and hopefully refining it and changing it a little bit as we move through this. Week 2 is more about the performance and adding in that sort of short bio or personal connection with the story, which is so helpful to have, especially in TV, where the executives that you're pitching to are sort of trained to look for that personal connection because they're answering this question, why should you be the one to tell this story? So you should, of course, always be reading pro scripts from the Blacklist or TV pilots from the TV writing site that we've linked to before, and at least between every class should read one that you are ready to talk about, say what you learned from, what did you like or not like, and just answer questions about. Week 3 was about pitching for TV, so that's where we had Conor Rowan on to take and hear TV pitches and explain a little bit more about working in the writer's room. And we are, the entire time, hopefully modifying and amplifying and improving the pitches that you have been bringing from class to class for the final version this week. All right, so here's the overview of today's class. We'll start with a check-in with all the students who have come by to see where you are at with your current pitch, and also just ask about the thing that you read recently, so you can tell us about the scripts that you have been reading in preparation for the class. We can go into any issues that you have in just delivering the information of the story or summarizing it efficiently, or any difficulties that you've had in organizing the story to begin with. We'll do some review and recap on performance and delivery and public speaking, and if you've not taken a public speaking course or you are uncomfortable with public speaking, you should be practicing that like as often as you can, because so much of screenwriting is this very, very social job where you have to communicate ideas efficiently, effectively, and in a way that draws the audience in and does not feel like you are pushing them pushing them away, because if you're not drawing the audience in, they are being sort of pushed away. You have to remember that the people you're pitching to it's their job to listen to pitches. They listen to many of them a day, and you have to stand out and go above and beyond and make it seem like they're in the good hands of a competent storyteller. Some common problems that will be affecting pitches. We can discuss some of the both structural issues and also just performance issues when it comes to explaining and communicating ideas. And then we will have time, mostly the second half of class, but I think we'll try to make a little more to hear these final versions of your pitches that you've been working on, using all the refinements and modifications that you have made throughout the class to make them as good as they can possibly be. All right, sounds like we have we're getting some background sound from someone's mic, so if you would mind not muting your mics. Thank you. All right, let's, and we'll also, at the end we'll have lots of time for questions, and we'll have time for questions throughout, so feel free to use the chat channel. If you are not on our Discord, you can join our Discord, but of course you have to download Discord, and also just go to our website, scriptcamp.net, and you can get a link to our server. And use the chat channel on the left-hand side of your screen called Free Pitch Class to ask whatever questions you want or discuss whatever you'd like during the course. And I will stop and check back every once in a while to make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, last week's homework was to continue to practice your bootcamp pitch project. So ideally, if you were trying to decide between several things to be working on and refining, you have been able to narrow that down to just one idea for this class. And hopefully we've also read a pilot or pro script from the blacklist. So let's start with those things. The students that are here, how have we practiced or improved our pitch, or where do you sort of feel like you're at with it, and what are some recent scripts that you want to tell us about?
A lot going on in my life recently. Some medical issues, had to move back home. I don't think I was here when we even started. I didn't do, any improving or anything. But I watched analyses of the script writing of BoJack Horseman.
Okay, great. Anything cool or anything new or interesting that you learned while doing that?
In terms of storytelling, there's a lot of people who admire how they make this main character really unlikable. Or I should say a really terrible person, but somehow still likable, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And what were some techniques they used to do that?
They made it clear through his actions how, shitty he was. But in some of his mannerisms, like him being cynical sometimes, but sometimes less abrasively cynical and more relatable. And saying, being confused at something, making a joke. Specific instances don't come to mind at the moment. But I guess relatability was the big one when it came to being likable.
Right, so although he is sort of a, depressed, washed-up alcoholic, he is sort of...
He was also a jerk.
Right. But I think that on that show particularly, they make him flawed in ways that we can sort of forgive someone for. Most of the time. I guess they do sort of ride the line sometimes, but it's not like he's not hitting a kid or anything. He's doing things that are he
almost slept with a kid.
Did he? Okay.
Wait, I don't want to spoil it. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. I've seen the first season. But the point is, I think that having that element of forgivability is important, especially early on in a show, because that's when you get sort of most attached to those characters. And that's why if you get someone on a character's side enough, the audience will follow them anywhere. And they will continue to root for them even past all logical, past the point where you would root for someone in real life. Just look at how many fans were still really, really rabid fans of, Walter White off Breaking Bad, even watching him become a worse and worse person over the course of the show. The first seasons just did such a good job of making you feel his pain, the things that he's struggling with. They feel like things that we can relate to and understand struggling with, and he's a bad person in sort of forgivable, understandable ways to begin with. Did it seem like the show was doing the same sort of thing? Although I guess does BoJack get way worse as the show goes on? Does he become a better person?
Way worse.
He does. Okay, but
there's also another character on there who shares this same trait but in a different way. Her name is Diane, and she is very attached to social issues and is so frustrated at society in general for like not seeing the truth of things or just being apathetic. And so I believe she is a writer. She as a ghostwriter for celebrities, and she goes on to start doing journalism. And she's just this person with a great moral compass. However, she can be hard to be around because of that, because she won't drop things, and she can hold people to high standards that she can't even maintain herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the vice and virtue being two sides of the same coin, you know? It's very interesting and very relatable.
Yeah, that makes for an interesting central dynamic duo or central relationship dynamic for main characters of a show. If they're both struggling with the same problem in different ways, or if they are both they both come from similar origins but have gone to like polar opposite ends of like where someone could go from there. All these things are interesting ways to sort of, like you said, make two characters two sides of the same coin. Often this is going to be the hero and the villain, but it might also be hero and love interest, hero and just best friend. Whoever the sort of central relationship is for the story. So if you haven't prepped another pitch, you could pitch that show today if you wanted to.
As I said, I'm kind of on a hiatus for stuff. I'm trying to get my medical stuff figured out, unfortunately. But maybe later in the class, I'll think of a show I know really well and try to do a pitch simulation.
Okay, yep, that's fine. Thanks, Gray.
Mm-hmm.
Who else has practiced their pitch and wants to tell us their progress updates, or has read a recent proscript they want to tell us about?
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Well, I never did any of that, but there are certain scripts I'd love to read, but I can't seem to find them anywhere.
There are some scripts you love to read but can't find anywhere?
Yeah, especially to learn especially try to figure out the mistakes they made that could have made the story better.
Okay, well, I mean, if you just Google, most scripts you can find if you just Google name of script and PDF. There are some that you might have a little more trouble finding.
Like Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Most big studio movies are pretty easy to find if you just Google it, but if you have trouble, there is another Discord server called Script Hive, which has a big database of scripts that you can search. There are some links that we can share if you're having trouble finding scripts.
Yeah, can you share that link? Can you share that Discord link? I'd like to see that.
Sure, yeah, we can do that. Anyone else who wants to tell us the update on their progress or recent scripts that they've read?
I read Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Ooh, yeah, I can't wait to see that.
And it was, so without going into details too much about the story, but it was written, it seems to be written for Jackie Chan. Like the main character is called Jackie Chan.
Oh, he is? Okay.
And, yeah, and I guess in the movie they replaced it with Michelle Yeoh and they turned it, they swapped the gender to female.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting and well written. But it wasn't, the prose style didn't really blew me away, but it was interesting the way that it, sort of captured really complicated concepts about, like people can travel, like it's, how to explain it, like the idea is that you can just turn, that there are all these different universes, and once the people who master traveling back and forth can sort of use strange, like the random possibility of your head passing through your desk if you hit your head against your desk is like one in, for all the atoms of your head to be just randomly arranged to pass through the atoms of the desk is like one in XXX quadrillion, whatever. But they're able to use those random things to just turn anything into anything else. Like you can turn a cat into a missile launcher or whatever.
Okay.
So it's just like, random probability. So it kind of doesn't exactly make sense, but, and, I guess it sort of feels sort of like kind of like Matrix kind of. But anyways, it was a really fun script to read. And I wonder what the version with Jackie Chan would have been like. That might be crazy.
I mean, I think he's basically retired from martial arts movies at this point. But I love that kind of stuff. I really want to write a Jackie Chan style movie at some point. And from what I've seen, the plot was a little bit like The Matrix, a little bit like, did you see The One with Jet Li from like 2001 or 2002? That has a somewhat similar sci-fi action plot as well, where there's it's a multiverse, million different versions of reality. If you travel to it, you can use like a portal to get from one to the other, and if one of them dies, then all their skills are distributed amongst the survivors. So there's this guy going around killing all the different versions of himself so he can become like the biggest, strongest, coolest martial arts Jet Li. So it's a little bit like that, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds like,
It was very cool when I saw it. I was 13, so I thought it was the coolest movie ever made. And you know what? I don't know if it holds up or not. I doubt it, but Jet Li hits people with motorcycles in it, and what else do you want from a feature film, All right, anyone else want to update us on the pitch that you've been working on, or recent scripts that you've been reading and things that you've been learning and noticing in them?
Ever since the last class that the last boot camp that I was in with y'all, I started looking into Fleabag more, which I thought was really, really good. The way that they used breaking the fourth wall to kind of it makes you feel like you're like partaking in the story that's going on. But also how they use it to close off the series in the second season, I think, was really, really good.
I agree. Yeah, very clever show. Were you reading the scripts or just watching the episodes?
Oh, I read the last episode.
Oh, good. Okay. Anything you noticed or learned just in the writing itself?
Not like technique-wise. But I did like just the story-wise what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that show takes the breaking the fourth wall device and sort of makes it a really important character trait, and it makes it represent something to the main character and sort of comes to represent like a relationship for her. And by the end of the show, when she sort of says goodbye to the camera, we sort of understand her as like moving on from like needing the audience anymore. So the character's relationship to the audience is drawn in a really specific and interesting way in that show.
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Thanks for that. And any progress on? I think you've pitched in a prior class in this course. Is that the case? Have you been working on something for today?
I have been trying to plot out a story. So I finished like kind of the outline, and now I'm trying to go scene by scene before I start writing. And I don't know if that's a good thing to do, because I haven't done it before.
To finish the outline before you flesh out the scenes? Yeah, I mean that's just how I think that's the typical progression of outlining. You come up with the more general version, and then you get more specific and you flesh it out and build it up until it's sufficient for you to actually have the comprehensive roadmap for the whole feature. So I think you're doing fine.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't know if I should have gone from the outline to the scenes to the writing, or if I should have just gone for the outline to the writing, because I tried that before and it kind of stops me somewhere usually. So I'm like, I don't know, I'll just go scene by scene this time before I even start writing and see how that works out.
Whatever works for you is fine, but the method that I do and the method that I teach is first you start with the logline, and then you fill out a sketchbook. Then you are going to write out the story beats summary, so that's the major events in order. Then you move from that, expand it out into the scene cards, which is going to be a full paragraph for every scene with the page numbers that it's going to take place on written above it. And then once that's done and you know what happens on every page of the movie, that's when I will start usually. So if what you do is working for you, then there's no issues, but that's at least what I consider the standard sort of Hollywood writing method, where you will have to get used to outlining things pretty carefully, especially when pitching or when working with producers, because they like to all be kept on the same page and they don't like to have to read a full script every time. They're just going to want to read 1 to 3 page synopses of it. So that's part of what today's class is focused on, is the skill of summarizing and efficiently communicating stories. So you could try pitching what you have today, even if it's not totally done, if you want to.
Yeah. So, yeah. I finished the outlining portion of the story. So basically, would this be like
go ahead,
like a log line?
Well, so we'll get into it in the class, but you start with a logline, title, and genre, and then wait for questions, and then you have like 90 seconds to just explain the story, basically. So you can wait until a few other people go if you want to, or you can just like watch along for a while before you decide if you want to try it. But it's okay if it's not done, or if it's, you think it's going to change, or you think it's not, totally ready. You can just try with whatever you've got.
I think it'd be better if I just heard other people's first to know what I'm doing, kind of.
Okay, sounds good. You can also check out the previous recordings from this course or the previous pitch workshops that we've done. We have recordings of all those on YouTube that I would recommend watching in their entirety, especially the ones with Scott Barkin.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. Anyone else have a project that they've been, I guess I should ask, does anyone have a project that they have been working on and improving over the course of this class that they want to?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have mine. So you said start with the log line, and then go into the pitch?
Yeah, we'll get to the pitching part of the class in a few slides. We want to go over and review some things first, but I just wanted to ask an update on where you were, if you think it's going well, if you'll be ready to try it out today, any problems that you've been having.
No, it's going well. It's kind of, I just reworded. I think the last time I pitched it, I didn't mention that the girl was 14, the one that was the novice. She was 14 years old.
Okay.
But I kind of like exited out all of the other things, like her being a YouTuber, like a YouTube, creator, and
This is the ice skating script, right?
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
I took that out, and the fact that she's her sister's booty skater just made her basically a ice skating novice.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like you have modified it based on the feedback that you've gotten, which is great. So you're in just the right spot.
Yes.
When in a couple slides, in like probably 20 minutes, we'll start taking those. Did you read any more scripts or pilots, or like features or pilots since last time we've talked? What do you want to tell us about?
The one. Just the one I already spoke about in another class.
Yeah, that's okay. You were in another class just a day or two ago where you told us about something you've read recently. So that's totally fine.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I recommend you read at least one pro feature script if you want to be a feature writer every week, one pilot if you want to be mostly TV. So one or the other. My recommended number is 3 a week. So try to be reading 3 professional scripts a week. Thanks, Lazima. Let's look at this question. Does anyone think that they need extra help to organize their pitch or to improve their technique before we move on with some recap of skills that we've worked on so far?
I know I do.
Okay, what questions have you got, or what things are you working on?
That's long. That's gonna take long to explain.
Okay, that's all right. So if you're just struggling with like basic delivery of information, I think I mentioned public speaking classes can be really good, even if you just take them like at a community college or like I'm sure there's online versions of these too. Theater, improv, role playing, all these things will build the same muscles that are required to be able to speak clearly and extemporaneously without any sort of filler words or going off track or going off course. These are all just like really important skills when you're you only have a limited time to communicate a story as clearly as you can. And it most of all just requires a lot of practice. So just going through the pitch again and again. We have a stopwatch out. Check your time. Make sure that you're not going way over or way under. We'll have lots of tips that we can suggest to you if you just have general questions about how to improve pitching technique.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Pitch. Oh yeah, that's right. Pitching. Yeah. That'll be my first time pitching. I just haven't, tried, haven't, done I haven't done it before. You know what I mean?
Okay, then if the question is, do you need extra help to organize your pitch or improve technique? If you've never done it before, obviously, yes, I think that you will need lots of help, but moreover, you will just need practice. So practice is going to be the biggest thing.
Well, speaking, since I got high function autism and getting the right words out, especially without without speech notes is going to be a hard thing to do.
Right. Which is why it's good that you can have whatever notes you need. You can make whatever documents or whatever, note cards that you want to have while you're doing a pitch. You should just try not to read directly off of them for every single word, because then you might just seem sort of, if it seems too rehearsed and robotic, sometimes that can throw off the person you're pitching to. So just mostly practice is going to be the main thing to help you if you've never done this before.
So it can't be so it can't be too. You can't exactly say it word for word because it'll seem like it's too rehearsed.
Usually that is the case, yeah, unless you're exceptionally naturalistic as an actor and can kind of make it seem like you're coming up with everything on the spot. I mean, the person you're pitching to usually knows you're not coming up with it on the spot, but they still they're going to be asking you questions and things that might throw you off. They might ask you to repeat or clarify something, which, if you rehearse everything to the line, you won't exactly be able to go off script at all, which you need to sort of be able to do. Maybe they'll take a certain specific interest in one element of the story that they'll ask you more about, so you need to be able to divert from the course and then get back onto it to finish out the pitch. So yeah, these are just sort of like general performance and communication skills. Theater classes are going to be probably the best way to get better at these in general overall.
Okay.
Thanks for the questions. Let's move on to our first couple slides and make sure that if you are not yet enrolled this is the last course in this series, but we have many other series and we have many other courses, so make sure to sign up if you want to get access to those. With an unlimited membership, you get access to every single class, every workshop, every lab, every event, every reading that we do. So you can go to scriptcamp.net/classes to buy a course on its own, or you can start a free trial for an unlimited membership at scriptcamp.net/membership. And just let us know in the chat if you want to sign up but have not yet done so, and we can give you immediate access to the Bootcamp channels to join the discussion. All right, here's what you get in the different tiers of membership. Our basic membership is just $5 a month and it includes 8 classes plus private Discord channels and video library. It does not include Bootcamp classes or Writer's Lab.
I have to pay?
Yeah.
I have to pay?
This is, there's different tiers of paid membership for our other classes. This one the class that you're in right now is a free public class, which we have a lot of, at least one a week. But then we have bootcamp courses as well, which are basically coaching you to writing a whole movie over the course of 8 weeks, or a pilot over the course of 6 weeks, or a rewrite over the course of 4. So this is the things that are included with those other tiers of membership. You get access to all bootcamps with the unlimited and the lab, and just over 70 hours of classes a month. It also comes with $100 off consultations or proofreads, as you can see here. We offer coverage. So for all this, go to our website, scriptcamp.net, and you can find links to all these things.
You're going to have to talk to my mother about pricing, since she controls my, how to use my money.
Okay, we can discuss later if you want. You can send me or Nacho a message on Discord. So some more about ScriptCamp. We have these script coins. You can type $store into the chat, and you can see all the merchandise that you can get through just these internal coins that we have. You get coins by participating in activities, by going to classes, by offering feedback, and you can use them to get basic membership or table reads or script services or lots of stuff. So in any chat channel, just type in $store and you will see all the options there. And lab is 4 to 6 Pacific time on Saturday, where you will be able to ask whatever questions you want or bring up to 5 pages of something you're working on, whether that be outline or pages from a script, just to get a sense of what's working and what's not, or to get just tips and guidance on how to shape a story or anything you want to ask. You can buy just an individual session of those on the website if you want to, but they're also included in the unlimited membership. So if you are signed up for the unlimited option, you can go to any labs you want and ask as many questions as you want. So today's class, before we get too far into this, just some reminders that this is for fun and to refine your idea and to just improve at efficiently communicating stories. That might mean that you are coming to this with something that you have not yet written, or you might be coming with something that you plan to write. It's better to try to pitch something in a workshop or a course that you have not yet written and that you are just planning to write, because then if it turns out there might be major issues in the story, you don't have to then go back and fix and change tons of things. If you haven't yet written it, then it's much easier to change stuff, obviously. So the intent of this class is to help you practice and improve your pitching technique, which includes not only just which information to include, but also just the skills involved in communicating that information. So speaking clearly and slowly and getting to the point and not going off track or off course or just sort of losing your listener. If you don't have a project to pitch, you can pitch a pilot or a TV show that you yourself have read or watched if you just want to practice. Though we will prioritize, just if there's a line, we will have to prioritize those who have a pitch that they have practiced and worked on. We're looking for original, clear, high-concept pitches that bloom in the mind to suggest compelling TV pilots or movies. So that starts with title and genre and clarification of tone if needed, and then the logline, so you should be able to type out and post both of those things. You don't have to have the pitch written out, but you should be able to then verbally, in 90 seconds to 2 minutes, be able to communicate like a verbal trailer for the story. So you don't have to go through every single beat of the entire movie, but you do want to start at the beginning, tell us it's about this person in this world, and when this happens, they must then this and this and this, and sort of just highlight what's fascinating and interesting about that journey, and make us sort of feel like we can see the movie, like envision the rest of it. So you should be suggesting the trajectory of the remainder of the plot after about the halfway point. So you can be pretty explicit as to what the plot elements are up to about the midpoint, at which point you can say, now, with all of that done, the main character has to do final goal before ticking clock or stakes or whatever is pushing them through the story in terms of urgency and motivation. So once you go through that version, then we'll be timing that so we can let you know exactly how long you took and maybe offer some suggestions in terms of concision or clarity. And then we'll have questions and conversation about your idea. We may have to ask you a bunch of questions, so you should be ready to talk and communicate a lot. And as you receive notes, some of those might be in the forms of questions like, I wonder if there might be a better way for us to improve this, or I wonder if you can combine these two elements or anything like that. So be ready to speak and have this short conversation as you are getting the feedback.
Let me pause you right there for a second. You said for the audience that they know what's coming next. You make it sound like they know what's coming, like they've already seen it once.
Nope. So if you're pitching to someone, they will not already have seen it once unless you are, for instance, for this class, sometimes we say you can pitch something you've already seen or a movie that exists in the world and just sort of pretend that you wrote it for the purposes of practicing. So you can do that if you want, but normally if you're pitching something, it will be to someone who does not know the story at all.
So it's like, for example, like a true story, something that really happened in real life.
Right. In that case, the person might know what really happened. Right.
Well, look at James Cameron's Titanic movie. I don't think that one will be topped anytime soon.
Right. Yeah. Nobody's probably making another Titanic movie after that. So yeah, if it's based on a true event or true story, it's going to come down to your presentation of that story, because the same true story can be told in a lot of different ways, with a lot of different main characters, a lot of different sets of focus with a different scope. So it's going to come down to your specific presentation of that thing. That goes for public domain as well. So if you're doing, like, I don't know, a Sherlock Holmes movie or a Tarzan movie or something like that, that's all perfectly allowed, but it's going to come down to the specifics of your version.
Well, the thing is, in the comment section of a YouTube video I saw of a scene from Titanic, they said about the iceberg scene. The users say, oh, every time I see it, it almost like it's going to miss the iceberg, but it does hit it,
Right. Yeah. So your job is to sort of make it, even if everybody knows what's sort of going to happen. Like take Romeo and Juliet, for instance. Like we all know what's going to happen in Romeo and Juliet. Your job is to still make it satisfying and interesting, the journey along the way.
Yeah, like still to make it. They didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it should still feel like a surprise, even if we kind of know where it's going to go.
Almost makes me wonder. Did you ever get taught under Sid Field?
I know of Sid Field's writing, but I have not actually read any of his books cover to cover.
Oh, he's the guru. That's what they say.
Yep, certain books are always good to look at. You should read as many screenwriting books and take as many classes as you can, just so that you can synthesize all of the information and come to your own sort of develop your own methods based on that.
I'm reading one of his books right now, but I haven't finished it yet.
Great. Okay, cool. So there's lots of books to check out, lots of things to be learned there. So I think I answered this question mostly last class. What's it like pitching to producers? And we had Conor explain some of pitching TV. So I think that just my last notes here will be, this is not something you need to worry about for quite a while. But by the time you get there, nobody teaches you or trains you how to do it. So you do have to be practicing along the way, and that's what workshops and classes and things like that are useful for. So it's like a lot of things with Hollywood. Once you actually get in the room, you realize, oh, I'm actually really unprepared for this. How was I supposed to have known how to do this? And people will just sort of expect you to know. So I would go out of your way to practice and to learn, and always be taking notes and listening to recordings and podcasts. Podcasts are a great resource. You can find recordings of actual professional pitches in different podcasts. There's I don't know if this is still out there, but when I was first getting into screenwriting, there was a recording of, like, a podcast recording from the Battlestar Galactica writers' room, which was just like 3 hours in the writers' room, just listening to them pitch ideas, come up with storylines, get shot down, talk over each other, improve each other's ideas, and amplify them as much as possible. So there's lots of resources you can find in the world of podcasts and recordings that might just give you a better sense of what to do here or what people are looking for here. So you must widen the net. You should be reading books, listening to things, watching documentaries, reading professional work, all these things, and not just reading scripts, but reading treatments, reading 1-sheets, reading 3-sheets, reading all the different kinds of deliverables and screenwriting documents that are out there and available in the world. There are some good resources out there, so it is a better time now to start doing this than it has been in the past. So we talked.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Before you start this one, you said go back to the last slide.
Okay.
Producers. I thought you pitched to directors. So if that's not the case, then what's the difference between a producer and a director?
Well, no. So we're not pitching to directors unless you make, like, it's possible to make contact with a director that you might pitch to. But directors are the people making the movies. Producers are the people that are working with studios to set up movies to be made. So producers are usually going to be the ones that are attaching the director and attaching all the other elements that are not just the writer. So by pitching to producers, it's most of the time when you're pitching, it will be to producers. They are the people that will put the movie together. So the director is the one who's actually on set on the day, arranging scenes, and they're the sort of the final voice. The director is pretty much in charge of feature films, whereas in TV, directors are sort of more hired guns, and they are not really in charge of the whole production. The writers are in charge in TV, at least nowadays.
I wonder how hard it is to do all three, like James Cameron did, director, producer, and screenwriter.
It's very hard. There are people that do it, and the ones that can do it well are very famous, typically. And
James Cameron, I guess that means that James Cameron's very famous for his Titanic film.
Yes, that and many other films, definitely. But yeah, being the same person doing all the jobs, super, super difficult, and not many people can do all of them.
Just imagine if he stayed as a truck driver.
Right. All right, so let's look at, let's just recap this idea here of the smallest box. Remember, we're starting with the smallest box version of the story. You can arrange a story into many different shapes, or to fit in many different kind of containers or formats. So you typically want to start with the very simplest version, which is going to be, remember, just title, genre, and comps are just the very basic information that we need to start with. You can then follow that up by unfolding the box, or having the slightly bigger box, which is going to be something like a pulpy space opera adventure like Buck Rogers meets Jason and the Argonauts. Something like that. Obviously, many stories can be summed up or explained in different ways, so you have to just see what works, try out different things, see what your audience is connecting to and what's making sense to them, what questions they have. if even your genre and comps don't make sense together, you're going to be in bad shape, because that's your very first thing that you need to have down. And if your audience is left scratching their head after that, then something's very wrong. So the next version is you want to unfold it slightly more to have the just one quick sentence. If somebody just asks you, what are you working on? You might say, it's a story about this. It's about a farm boy with magic powers who has to take down this evil empire. That might just be the really quick version, and then not even a complete logline. And then you should be able to unfold that into a complete logline that's that one sentence expression of the story that is going to answer a bunch of questions for us. Mostly those questions are going to be, who's the main character? Like, whose story is this? What is standing in their way? What are they trying to do? What is the inciting incident that sets the story into motion? What is the obstacle that they face? And what is the ticking clock or the sense of urgency and motivation? Or perhaps even if it's a feature, it can be very useful to lay out the walls of the story, meaning the boundaries, the physical location, time frame, or any other thing like that, which just limits the scope. A lot of movies will take place in somewhat contained scopes, like within 1 week, or within 1 day, or within one room, or within one house, or any of these things. So if that's the case and it can help us just envision the story better, then you should include that. For a TV show, it's less necessary to have really strict walls governing what, like, how many years is this going to take place over, or anything like that, because TV is unique in that it's supposed to theoretically be able to just go on forever, most of the time. In premise-based shows like something like Lost, or I think I mentioned Battlestar Galactica earlier, there is a finite story that is told chapter by chapter by chapter, and these sort of should feel like they have some sense of boundaries or walls, like we talked about the pitch for Ozark, which is about a financial advisor that takes his family to the Missouri Ozarks to launder $500 million in 5 years. Having that 5 years makes me understand, okay, this isn't going to be one of those shows that just goes on forever. This is probably going to be 4 or 5 seasons. So, some pitching tips. Remember to lead with the comps or explanation of the tone. If it's helping us to see the movie, make sure you've laid out the walls. If that feels like it applies or pertains, or if that seems germane to what you're working on. You don't want to include any background or context that's not essential, and you don't want to include character names unless they are a public figure or public domain character. Remember to focus on the main character, especially for features. For TV shows, you can have a little bit of a looser focus and more of an ensemble element, but for features are about a person who does a thing. It's someone's story. So the only characters you'll probably mention in the logline are the protagonist and maybe the antagonist or central relationship, which might be best friend, love interest, something like that. You should be asking yourself, why this specific protagonist? And moreover, why me? Why should I be the one to write this? So if you have some kind of connection to the material, if it's about a dentist and your dad was a dentist and you grew up around dentists, then that might be relevant. Or look at your own upbringing, background, culture, any of these things that connect you to what you're writing. That would be something to bring up in the pitch. Just a couple quick lines about it at the beginning. You don't have to go on and on about it, but just knowing that you have some sort of connection, or it's some field of expertise that you have, or something you majored in, or something you studied, or you worked as a detective, or you worked as a doctor, or any of these things that can just lend additional authenticity to the story. That is something that should come up in your pitch. Motivation and urgency is the last thing. For a movie especially, it should be clear that your character has to act, and why, and that conflict should come with the highest possible stakes and consequences for the genre that you're writing in. A movie should not feel like an episodic TV show, which is just a series of repeatable situations that can theoretically go on forever, or overly internal like a novel, which is going to be a story about someone sitting around thinking about stuff or discussing stuff or just debating ideas without doing things, because movies are about people doing stuff. Some common problems here that I've gone over before, so I won't go through every single one, but just these are things to be aware of. Remember to have a clear hook or a clear point of view for the story. If you're like, it's a mob movie like The Godfather, you know, like that. And then we're left without the specificity of a new and different POV. If you just say it's like something that exists, then we're like, well, then why should your thing exist? It needs to stand out and stand above and do that extra work to show, I have a unique take on this. I'm going to show you some version of this that might have an element of familiarity to it, but ultimately it's going to be something you haven't seen before. And also be aware of then what syndrome, which is you sort of spend the entire pitch on telling us the setup, and then we're like, but what's the movie? You just spent 2 minutes talking about the first 10 minutes of this story. there's 80 left. So you need to give us, remember, imply the trajectory of everything that is to follow that has been a logical consequence of the things that have preceded it. So take us about to the halfway point and then say, now they must, with this new information or with this new reveal or with this new set of stakes, they must now do X concrete tangible goal before X concrete tangible ticking clock or bad thing occurs. And watch out for execution-dependent stories which might seem to otherwise rely on, well, just it'll be really good. Or it might require specifics in the cinematography or direction or other factors that are just difficult to express in a story pitch. Tips for personal connection: look at a time that you spent in a similar world to the show. How did the main character's experience mirror your own in any way? Something in terms of your expertise or that you've done for school or work. Something specific to your upbringing, background, religion, culture, or anything else like that that connects you to the show. And if not, you can stretch the truth a tiny bit. And, like, obviously, you don't need to really do that for this. I'm not buying anyone's pitches. But if you are pitching to producers or something, and you spent like a couple summers in Italy as a kid, maybe you'll want to stretch the truth to the extent that you're like, I basically grew up in Italy as a kid. I spent so long there with my grandparents and my family, and I just know it like the back of my hand. Even if, like, you only spent a few summers or a few weekends there, no one's going to fact check you. They're just looking for authenticity and connection to the story. And if you can reasonably manufacture a little bit, no one's going to be too upset. Just try not to, I don't know. I think Conor Rowan mentioned last week, story about a TV writer who pretended she had cancer in order to get a script to get on a show about a person that had cancer, and it became clear that they were faking, and then they got fired. So don't lie that much, but you can, it's like a college essay. You can stretch the truth a little bit if it gets you in the door, because you're really just answering the question, why should I be the one to write this? All right, we are ready for student pitches. Oh, thanks for that, Nacho. I didn't even think that recording was still out there. Oh, we have a question? Go ahead.
I asked this question a while back, and I never got an answer to it. So, how important is symbolism in screenwriting?
How important is symbolism? Somewhat important. I mean, symbolism is a factor in all kinds of writing, whether you're writing a book, a play, a story, like any kind of story will have certain symbols in it. And whether or not you deliberately come up with those, sometimes the audience might just sort of read into them and might just like see themes where you didn't even intend them. So the audience is always going to be scanning for those things. And go ahead.
Like, for example, in Terminator, the car runs over a toy truck. I think that implies that James Cameron sees to be that he's throwing out his career as a truck driver.
Oh, okay. Maybe there's certain things like almost like Easter eggs in certain movies that might speak to the director or writer's personal life or experience in some kind of way. Normally,
that's called an Easter egg, not symbolism.
Well, I mean, that's something that has to do with the director's life, not a character in the movie. So to me, that would not really. I mean, to an extent, it is symbolism, but not of something within that pertains to the characters in the story. Normally, when there's symbolism in a story, it's going to relate to the themes of that story, the characters in it. Symbols are really useful for showing in a movie that something has happened. Like if a character is always seen with their whiskey bottle, and then they decide to quit drinking, showing them smash that bottle, and having a lingering shot of that broken bottle dripping on the table, might be a really effective way to show, oh, they have quit drinking whiskey. So symbols are just really useful storytelling tools. You don't need to take a university class on how to use them or anything. You should just be aware of how they work, basically.
Then what's the difference between that and Easter eggs?
I think an Easter egg is like something that you would only notice if you had some kind of outside information about the movie. Like if the director grew up in Idaho and there's an Idaho flag on the wall in one scene. That is not really a symbol that pertains to any of the characters in the movie. That's more just like a little joke or a visual reference or an homage. Some movies might have some of those too.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. So, thanks for this. Nacho just posted the link to the Battlestar Galactica Writers Room meeting. As far as I know, that's the only long-term or long unedited recording of inside a writer's room. So I would check that out if you are interested in TV writing. It's really cool. And even though it's quite old, doesn't have the best quality. Not everyone is mic'd. It's just like a recorder on the table. But if you want to know what it's like being in an actual pro writer's room, I would check that recording out. Okay, so we are to the point in class where we can start taking student pitches. We're at the second half, so feel free to go ahead in the chat and post the title, logline, and comps for whatever you've got, whether it's something that you have been refining for this week, like Lazima has, or it might be something that's brand new that maybe you just want to give a shot. You want to try out pitching for the first time. Let's see some entries in the chat.
Where in the chat exactly? How do I do that?
So it's the free pitch class chat channel on the left-hand side of your screen. So if you click on that, then you should be able to type in the chat window at the bottom.
Free pitch class and put it in there, right?
Right, the chat window.
All right, now I just entered script high, so I gotta go back to the script camp.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Personally, I'm not. So, what should I be typing exactly?
Title, logline, genre, and comps.
Like what's Jaws' logline?
I'm not sure what Jaws' logline is. You could Google it and probably find it pretty easily, but normally, remember, the logline is going to be when inciting incident occurs, an adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. So it's going to be one simple sentence that expresses who is the main character, what are they trying to do, what's standing in their way, and where does the story kind of go.
Like, isn't it? Sorry, I get a notification that kind of muted you out a bit. I'm on my iPad.
Okay, so the logline is going to be something like when inciting incident occurs, an adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. So in the chat right now, Nacho just posted a synopsis of the different steps for the logline and the things to be looking at and things to watch out for. So this is one simple sentence that expresses the answer to the question, what is the movie about?
You mean the script camp bot?
Yeah, so we have a bot that we have a bunch of commands that if you just type in, like we just type in exclamation point logline, then the bot will come in and post this whole explanation for us.
I can't save it though.
You can't save it?
I mean, save it, but save the chat, you know.
Oh, you can copy and paste the text to whatever other program you want to use if you'd like.
Yeah, unlike, if you're on a Zoom meeting, the text disappears, but Discord is permanent. So that's one of the reasons we use Discord. Like, all that chat will still be there. You can just log on any time, and it's still in case you need that info.
Like it. Thank you. Who said that, by the way? Not Nacho?
That was Nacho, yes, our co-founder.
I sent you a friend request, too.
Okay, thanks, JB.
My real name's Jeffrey.
Okay.
Jeffrey.
All right, so let's see some pitches in the chat, and I will start calling on folks. Remember, title, genre, and comps come first.
Can I say an example of a log line?
Well, some folks are about to start posting there, so I think you will in just a moment.
Just in a second?
Yeah, just check the chat, and we're about to get a few folks posting theirs, and I will be calling on them, and they'll be practicing their pitch too. So I'll give you guys a minute to just type that up.
This is kind of a guess log line, but what do you think of this? See it before you judge sharks.
So that sounds like a tagline. A tagline is like something that would be on the poster or the back of the movie box. Whereas a logline is a sentence that has to answer a bunch of questions. It's like, that's why we have this whole template here that might help you if you're not sure how to start. When or after the inciting incident, an adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. So those are all the questions that we will have that need to be answered in that one sentence.
Basically, on the synopsis that you see on IMDb, right, of every movie or something.
Yeah, that's sort of similar. So that IMDb will have they won't always be great log lines because they're not, those little synopses are not written by the writers. Those are written by the people who post on IMDb. So it's worth looking at those just to get a general idea, though.
I'd like to one day have a personal one-on-one Discord meeting so we could chat about the prize, especially with my mother invited.
Okay, we can discuss after the class if you'd like. But for now, since we're doing a stream and we've got a bunch of other students here, we will have to take a few pitches and finish out the class first.
Not now, because I got another important meeting at 1:00. Trying to be like a politician / screenwriter, filmmaker.
Okay, sounds good. So I will give everyone another minute to finish typing out their title, genre, comps, and loglines so that I can start calling on folks.
Does it have does the idea have to be your own, or can it be based on another movie?
So if you want to just practice by pitching some other movie that already exists, you can do that for today if you want to, but we are going to prioritize the original ideas.
Okay.
Oh, what are the comps, like comparison to other things?
Yeah, so comparable movies to your or TV shows to your own. Want to just pick two. Don't say more than two, or else it'll just get confusing. But you can think of it as like maybe the world of the first thing with the setting or style or tone of the second thing. That's not always going to be a hard and fast rule, and you can't overthink this too much. But that's just an example of how you might think of comps. So try to pick two different things that are well known enough that your audience won't just be like, "What? I've never heard of that." You don't get bonus points for being obscure, or it's not a good place to show off your vast art house film knowledge or things like that. But try to pick two different movies or TV shows, and if it is a movie, at least one of your comps should be a movie, and if it's a TV show, at least one of your comps should be a TV show.
Is there such a thing as a Filmmaker Bootcamp Discord channel?
We have considered adding something like that. We don't have anything like that now, but we do have a chat channel for filmmakers. If you scroll up, there's one called Filmmaking.
Because even if the screenwriting is perfect, very great, if the filmmaking is terrible, I think that might hurt the movie.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's totally true. In this Discord, we focus mostly on the writing, just because that's what I do for a living, and that's just what I know the most about, and our guest instructors know the most about. But in the future, we might add more courses on directing or filmmaking.
All right. So what's that chat called? What's that Discord server called about the filmmaking?
Well, we have a chat channel for it. If you just scroll up on Scriptcamp, there's just a channel called Filmmaking. I've also linked the Discord channel called Script Hive. If you scroll up in the chat, you should see the link. It has like a honey jar on it.
I saw that.
Okay, good.
I saw it and I already joined it. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Gray and Lazima. Looks like we've got two on here so far. So I'm going to call on one of you guys, and we'll get started. But if you're still typing your idea, feel free to continue, and we will have time to get to more. We have an hour in class. So let's start with Lazima for On Thin Ice, and then we'll go to Gray with, looks like you'll be pitching Gravity Falls, which I've seen almost all of, so that'll be great. Go ahead, Lazima.
Okay. So I just start with my log line.
Well, yep. So you just read out your title, genre, and comps.
Okay.
Go for it.
On Thin Ice. Title: On Thin Ice. It's a drama. The comps are Spinning Out meets Black Swan.
All right.
After her
so
oldest
let's
tragic
pause right there for
escape-
1 second
I'm
and make sure to just wait for questions after each of the different steps. So make sure to say it's a TV drama, so this is a pilot, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
TV drama, and I'm not sure what Spinning Out is.
It's a new show on Netflix.
Oh, it's a new show. Okay.
Yeah.
You probably be okay comping newer things just because executives and producers usually are watching stuff on TV. So just because I don't know it doesn't mean it's a bad comp. I just want to point out when I'm like, I'm not sure what that is. So you should just be aware that your reader or listener might not be. So if you can think of like a more famous example, then I would maybe go with that instead. But for now, like I think if it's something that's currently on the air, you're probably fine. All right, read out the logline for us.
All right. After her older sister's tragic ice skating accident, A 14-year-old novice is forced by her ex-Olympian Korean parents to uphold the family name on the ice.
All right, thanks for that. So I'm glad that you've reduced a lot of words from this and have really improved and refined this. So nice job. Why is on the ice capitalized like that? She's forced by. Go ahead.
It's supposed to be like, yeah. It's just like to make it connect to the title. That's it.
Okay. I would just write it out normal. We're not going to exactly know what you mean by doing that. So uphold the family name on the ice. I think that does make sense. So let me just see if I have any questions here. A 14-year-old novice is forced by her ex-Olympian Korean parents to uphold the family name. So the only thing that raises a slight red flag for me with this logline is the fact that it sounds like your main character is being forced into the story and is not actually making a choice to partake in that story, which can be troublesome at times and can feel just like a passive protagonist that is having the story thrust at them, or they are like, how many years does it take to become an Olympian? I'm guessing many years, right?
Yeah.
So if you can find a way to frame this in terms of like a 14-year-old novice takes on the burden or takes on the responsibility of upholding her family name or something like that. I like the conflict that you've brought in by suggesting that her parents are making her do this, but it feels like your main character isn't very motivated and doesn't even want the objective of the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so maybe think of this in terms, or rephrase the logline in terms of your character chooses to do this even though it's difficult. And so maybe something like, despite the overbearing coaching of her strict parents or something like that, she still, takes on this challenge. And just make it seem like your main character isn't being dragged through the whole story. All right. So
who's the person speaking?
The person speaking is named Lazima. She's going by the username The Moon Spirit, and you can see the logline here at the bottom of the chat window.
Well, anyway, I wanted to speak to her about that. Kind of sounds similar to what you just said. Kind of sounds similar to an episode from Batman the Animated Series. You ever seen that series?
I have, but I'm not sure about that episode.
So that sounds let's hear the pitch first and maybe hear a little more about it. I'm sure it'll become clear it's not that similar to the episode you're talking about as she goes on. So why don't you go ahead into the 90-second version and I'll have the timer up for you.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right. I'm the younger sibling of two and have experience living in the shadow of, my older sibling. So the story starts with the tree. A 20-year-old local ice skating superstar and beauty queen. She trains vigorously to be chosen to enter the Olympics and become an Olympic gold medalist like her mother and father before her. During her training, she is injured, and a dark cloud forms over the family's name. But the sun shines through the gloom, and it's her 14-year-old sister, an ice skating novice. She is thrusted into her sister's advanced training and by her parents. But secretly, she has ambitions of her own to join the Olympics, but never had the gall to really step out of her sister's shadow before now. So she battles her envious sister's sabotage attempts and her own guilt from stepping into her sister's dream on the ice. But now she's obsessed.
Okay, thank you. So, nice energy on this. It's not gonna hurt you necessarily to take on this sort of more, expressive, animated storytelling style. You can do stuff like, say, but or you can you can play up the storytelling a little bit if that's how you feel confident, and that is just like the way that you would tell a story normally. I will say the first it took about 40 seconds of this for us to get to your main character though. And that can sometimes be, the longer it takes for us to be like, wait, who is this about? Who is this about? the longer it takes to do that, the more your audience will start to drift away sometimes. So maybe consider just first sentence should be about the main character, and then everything else as it relates to her. So I like how you did start with the kind of the background, and you say, like, this is a family that is, they have this Olympic heritage, and they've pinned all their hopes and dreams on this girl. But if you could frame it more like, you don't want to use character names, but you would want to say something like, the 14-year-old underachiever of this family has always lived in her sister's shadow as this Olympian, right? So just try to make things connect back to your main character a little bit. Otherwise, we'll still be like, wait, who is this about? What exactly are we doing in this? And then, are you saying that this accident happens, is this in the first episode or before the first episode?
In the first episode.
It'd be in the first episode. Okay, that's fine. So, yeah, I assume that would happen, like, probably end of the first act or something like that, I would hope. Or maybe, like, mid of the second act, but not that long into the story. So, I guess if we spend the first minute of the pitch on the first 10 minutes of the show, then we've kind of left a lot of us in the dark as to what we're actually doing in the show. So in terms of balance, try to balance the majority of what you're explaining, the story elements you're explaining, to be like after the inciting incident occurs. So you see how your inciting incident is this accident, right? That's the catalyst for the whole thing. And it took about a minute. Right. It took about a minute of the pitch to get to that part. So much backstory. It's so much like the good thing is that it's not backstory. It's in fact, it is happening in the pilot, which is good. But that's all just like the first 10 minutes of the pilot. So we do need a few sentences of setup at the beginning, but pretty quickly try to get to the main thing, like sentence 2 or sentence 3 perhaps should be that inciting incident. And then afterwards, we should mostly be focused on what we're doing now that has occurred. So I liked how you said she's going to be dealing with her jealous older sister. She's going to be dealing with those parents. She's going to be dealing with her own guilt. Maybe you want to suggest a few more kinds of things that she's going to be doing. I think you might say something like, as she's going to be rising through the tournament circuit. She's going to be, I don't know, what do they have, tournaments for ice skating or whatever it is that she's going to be like, whatever external obstacles are getting in the way, and that she's going to be progressing from local or regional championship to national championship to worldwide championship or anything like that. That's going to sort of suggest the progression of the show. That would kind of take a little more prominence in the narrative.
Okay. Can I give an example of an inciting incident?
Sure, go ahead.
Like the one from Jaws. Have that shark attack.
Uh-huh.
That's an inciting incident, right?
Yeah, I believe the inciting incident of Jaws is the shark attack near the beginning. That is the first of many shark attacks. It's what informs people that there is, in fact, a shark. It's the event that sets the story in motion. That's what an inciting incident is.
Also it seems that, what made it, the shark wasn't working, and that they were forced to change the script, and that made the movie better. Like the shark, they had to hide the shark,
Right, yeah, there's some interesting behind the scenes stories there. There's a couple spec scripts written about the behind the scenes on Jaws. There's a play about behind the scenes on Jaws, so lots of cool stuff there. But let's stick with Lizima's pitch just until we're finished giving feedback here. Lizima, did you have any questions on either the presentation or on the content of your pitch?
No. I was saying, did you like at the end the now she's obsessed part?
Now she's obsessed. Did you mean that over the course of her training, she becomes invested in winning the gold or becoming an Olympian?
Right. Yes.
I wouldn't leave us on that. I would, in fact, expand on that more, because you had like probably 30 more seconds left of pitch time. So then she becomes obsessed, and one of your comps is Black Swan. So that tells me that maybe she gets like really obsessed, and that's really interesting story stuff.
Super obsessed.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you mean, if you mean she's getting like Black Swan level obsessed, then that's where a lot of the core of your story will be. And you don't want to just leave us to imagine all that. You want to give some concrete examples of that and expand on that and like highlight the drama of that a little more.
Okay.
But it's a good element. I mean, yeah, just don't leave us on an interesting thing. Then we'll be like, wait, why didn't you tell me about it? I was hooked, but you didn't expand.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's it.
All right, thank you so much for this. I think that, especially for something you just came up with during last class, there are definite legs here if you wanted to consider writing this, but I know you're working on a bunch of other stuff, so no big deal if you don't get to it.
Yeah.
You're pretty busy.
Yeah. I might dabble in it. Yeah, I'm very busy, but I might decide to dabble in it, but I'm very busy.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with just writing an outline or something. Just take a day or two and just outline it and see if it works.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lazima. Okay, let's go to Gray with Gravity Falls.
Is that an original or is that an original idea or something already made?
Thin Ice
It
was
on
an
Disney
original,
XD.
and Gravity Falls is a Disney Channel show that Gray is going to practice pitching just to work on the skills today.
All right.
Hi, Gray.
Hey.
You want to read out the title, genre, and comps for us?
Okay. Also, sorry, I got frustrated halfway through, so I half-assed it.
That's fine. Don't
Like,
tell me. Hide. You
yeah.
gotta conceal that
Well,
fact.
this is before I become. Oh, you feel that? Dang it.
Oh no, I don't feel it at all. It's just
Okay. I was about
that's
to-
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
that's
I wouldn't know unless you told me. So don't warn your audience
I'm
you've
good.
half-assed it. All right.
Oh, no, I'm not Alex Hirsch yet.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
my name is Alex Hirsch, and
Okay.
the show I'm about to pitch to you, I call it Gravity Falls. It's a kids' animated series, and within that, because that's just a medium, not really a genre, it's a mystery comedy.
Great.
Logline is...
And what
when
were
a
the
pair-
comps?
The comps are sort of the energy of Goonies with the chaos of regular show on Cartoon Network.
Okay, great. Yeah, I like how one of these is a TV show with a similar animated style, and one of them can be something else. It can be a movie or a video game or something like that. But at least one of them should be the same, like
I never watched
format.
the Goonies. I was a little too scared to see it. I was embarrassingly.
Okay.
I didn't watch it either. I don't really watch live action stuff.
Don't watch live action of any kind.
Yeah, I'm a poser. Well, no, I like Wes Anderson stuff because it looks like cartoons.
Okay, so you only like things that resemble cartoons or are cartoons. Got it.
Mostly cartoons, but Wes Anderson shoots stuff in a sort of symmetrical, quirky way.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
oh yeah. It's very sort of animated-ish. There's even animated sequences in his movies.
Yeah.
Like
But I
in,
need to branch out because I'm missing a lot of amazing stuff.
oh yeah, There's lots of others. If you like similar stuff to that, then I'm sure there's a lot of recommendations we can give you that are things that are more over the top, more exaggerated, if that's the sort of stuff you're into. Jean-Pierre Jeunet movies you should watch if you have not already. Huge influence on people like Wes Anderson. So, we'll have suggestions for you. Why don't you read out your logline for us?
Back to Alex Hirsch. When a pair of fraternal twins are sent to stay in an isolated town in the American Northwest, they quickly realize that the area is full to the brim with disturbing and often perilous secrets.
All right, awesome. Thanks for that. So, for a logline, we would just want to make sure we would say and then they must what. So that's the sort of and then what syndrome. This is just the setup and inciting incident, which is good. Them being sent to stay in the. You probably say Pacific Northwest because American Northwest sounds a little odd to me, and we'll
Yeah, I
also.
should've put-
I think we'll know what you mean if you say Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
They quickly
And,
realize the area is full with disturbing and perilous secrets. Does imply the danger and sort of imply what they'll be doing, but it doesn't say what the characters are actually up to. So they're trying to, in fact, solve a mystery, right? More so than just they realize that there are mysteries afoot. They go about trying to combat these threats and to solve the problems, right?
Okay, yeah, I couldn't think of a good way to say they gotta do a thing about it, but the word solve is what you do with a mystery.
Yeah, solve,
All chance
resolve, battle, combat. I don't think there's one central antagonist on the show.
Well, there comes to be, but not from the beginning, though.
Right, exactly. So if there was, you'd want to frame it in those terms. But on Gravity Falls, the sort of sources of magic and monsters and things are all kinds of. It's like the land itself is sort of the source of it, so you don't have to frame it as they have to defeat this person to do this thing. But
yeah, it starts out pretty episodic, but it
Right.
becomes serial, more serious as it goes on. So
yeah, for sure. We'll have to pitch it as if it's season 1, so you can't actually include any of these more premise elements that are going to come into play later. But yeah, so for the pitch itself, make sure to focus on the central relationships and the characters that are beyond just Mabel and Dipper.
wait,
Okay.
do we want season 1 or do we want episode 1?
It's kind of both. It's both combined. For the most part, you'll be pitching It's imagine like 50% of the pilot, 50% of just the arc of the trajectory of the first season. So don't worry way too much if you miss out some plot points from the pilot, especially for this, because this is a show that already exists. But so it would go like take us to like the big reveal of the pilot, and then they combat this threat and many other similar threats, that many other things like that, like this for example, and this for example. And that's kind of how you would approach something like an animated show like this. Okay, you ready for the pitch part?
All right.
Whenever you're ready, I'll start the clock.
Okay.
Start the what?
The clock.
I'll have a stopwatch.
He's gonna time me.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He said
Not a pump.
I got it. Yeah, stopwatch. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, yep. 1, 2, 3, go. When I was growing up in an isolated rural town, that's redundant, in a rural town in the Pacific Northwest, there were pine trees everywhere, no one else for miles and miles. We had this isolated community, and a lot of my neighbors had something weird about him. And as a kid, I convinced myself the old guy next door is an alien cyborg that lives off fried okra. This lady at the coffee shop is actually possessed. And so I thought, what if all my crazy ideas I had about these people, what if it was actually sort of true? What if no one else knew, but I had to convince them to save their lives or save the town or something? And so what happens in our pilot, these fraternal twins are sent to live with their miserly uncle. And of course, the boy-crazy twin sister immediately falls in love with this edgy dude she thinks is so great and cool. But her brother quickly notices he has these weird tendencies to sort of lumber around and give one-word answers to questions. And so he believes that this new boyfriend is a zombie and spends the entire episode trying to convince everyone. As the series goes on, a bad guy, so to speak, arises, little Gideon, this sort of town celebrity who is not as sweet as he seems on the outside. And as the series goes on, we get more and more of these weird monsters that nobody seems to acknowledge or even know is there. And our twins have to solve it episode by episode, because it's all building up to something more. That's what I got.
All right, thanks so much, Greg. Good timing. You had a little more time even if you wanted to use it. So I like the background stuff at the beginning quite a lot, where I feel like this is Alex Hirsch's background, maybe not your background perhaps.
I've never been to the Pacific Northwest.
Okay. But
I've lived nearly my whole life in the American Southeast.
Gotcha.
Quite the opposite.
Okay, so but if you have some upbringing in connection or like something in common with the characters like that, it's great to bring that up and say like, oh, this is something I always wondered about as a kid. That's all really good.
I mean, I'm sure that's where Alex Hirsch grew up.
I think he spent summers there or something like that. At least spent a good amount of time there. Same sort of thing. But yeah, so that is the good kind of background and relevant background to include. I think that you missed a big opportunity to talk about the other characters in the pitch, though, because there are other members of the main cast you didn't even get to. Like, so before you start getting into like the things of the week, if we just have like a sentence grounding us in the world and the central cast. So you'll probably want to frame this around. There's this kid named Dipper and his twin sister who they get sent by their parents to move all the way and spend a whole summer in this like mystery shack, right? With this weird old uncle. So do you want to maybe go into that a little bit?
I stupidly forgot that the rule with no names is for loglines.
Right.
I'm a touch dense.
No. It's no problem at all. And so like for a TV pitch, you can bring up names if you want to. You don't have to don't expect the audience to remember them, but you should at least give a sense of what the cast is like. So we should know about
Dipper's name is pretty remarkable, so I think that would be good in this instance.
Yeah. In this case, it might be fine. For TV pitches, it can be just totally normal. But
and like
I think
Grunkle Stan.
Yeah. What about Grunkle Stan? It's like one of the best characters. It's like not only is he one of the best characters, he's one of the key characters in the story. And like the fact that at first he seems as if he's gonna sort of put his foot down on them having any adventures, but then it turns out he knows way more than he's letting on, and he is in fact part of the mysteries here instead of just an obstacle to solving them. Like that's a really interesting arc of the show, And then we have Seuss and Wendy and like several other members of the key cast as well, who in a TV pitch, the emphasis is on interesting worlds and the interesting characters that live in them, because you're just saying there's going to be a bunch of episodic, things of the week, and it's going to be cool. And we can only get so much mileage out of that if we don't know who's going to be going on those adventures. Also, I think the big reveal of the first episode is, and a big part of the sort of like the reason that this is chosen as the episode to set the tone and the fun of the show is he spends the whole episode trying to convince everyone that this guy is a zombie. Turns out he's a stack of gnomes under his clothes. So that might be weird.
Oh, do I have to say that?
You can. I mean, it's pretty funny and attention grabbing.
I thought it was setting up the pilot. Okay, yeah.
I mean, the pilot, that's like the midpoint of the pilot. There's still way more after that. I mean, don't the gnomes form into a giant monster that then chases and attacks them? Something like that. I
assume when you find out your sister's dating gnomes, you got to get the gnomes away somehow. So I thought that was a given.
Right, exactly. But so
hang around gnomes.
So, but you might just want. It felt to me like you were just leaving out the twist or the really fun moment or reveal of that pilot episode. That would be a nicer moment to leave us on. So, like, it turns out it's a bunch of gnomes, and then they have to deal with that threat. And then in the further episodes, they deal with a swamp monster. They deal with a cloud monster, or a clown monster, or a clown cloud monster, whatever it is that they, deal with. Yeah, just some suggestions there. In terms of time spent and focus, remember the majority should be after the setup. So the setup should just be like your first 20 seconds or so. It's good that you had that extra personal connection stuff at the beginning. But once we're in place, make sure you spend a sentence or two on, now our main characters are living in this, what is it, like a gift shop?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the world of the show. That's like their home base where they spend most of their time, and also just an area that is rich with story potential. Secrets and artifacts and all that kind of stuff that they can use for clues or for how to defeat villains or for research. You want to make it clear that the story will have interesting locations in it that the characters will have to explore or understand or defeat.
So I have to spend a bit more time on the setting, but mainly the supporting characters.
Yeah, we want to know more about the other characters.
My favorite is between like Grunkle Stan, Seuss, or Old Man McGucket.
Right. You might not want to bring up Old Man McGucket unless it's like, and there's lots of quirky, interesting people in the town too, like Old Man McGucket, spitting in a bucket. I
think the name is pretty self-explanatory there.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I want to talk about other people that like are awesome characters, like how do I address their appeal but concisely, because I have like 2 minutes?
Make sure it's in relation to the main characters and whatever their journey is or story is. So there's this girl named Wendy whom Dipper has a huge crush on, even though she's too old for him, right? So you used the connection to a main character as a jumping off point to talk about someone else. Or when they go into town, they're always seeing this crazy old dude. So just make sure it's always coming back to the main characters. It shouldn't sound like, here's a list of people in this world. It should sound like, our main characters are doing this in the world, and here's somebody that they encounter because of this, and here's somebody they encounter because of this. So we should be following and sticking with the main characters when possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you said like to sort of be able to adapt, but it's hard when you have to get so much information in 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I have to be like, there are twins and mystery, child celebrity at the end of the first season, and crush you can't have, and money hungry uncle, grandpa uncle.
A grandpa uncle with more to him than meets the eye, perhaps. Oh, that makes it sound like he's a transformer. But at least, there's...
I'm not sure if they allude to that in the first season.
Isn't the first season finale him opening a secret door behind his vending machine?
That's like season 2 or 3.
Season 2?
The season. Well, am I wrong? I know. Season 1 finale definitely has to do with. No, I'm just stupid. You're right.
It's all good. I might be wrong. It's a long time ago. Wasn't this on like 10 years ago? But
yeah.
So yeah,
I feel so old.
I watched. Yeah, so do I. I watched it when it was on. Anyway, so yeah, there's some tips for you. Make sure to expand on the full cast, because the first question you're going to get is, well, who else is in it?
Okay. And allude to the what happens in the season, and
yeah, what happens isn't as important as the world and characters for TV.
So you're gonna have to explain to me all those. Were you done talking?
Let's see if Gray has any more questions. Go ahead, Gray.
Personal question. You're gonna have to explain to me how how the Scriptcamp bot works. You know, what are
Oh,
all the
we can.
what are all the tags that I need, all the tags, and you know, to get it listed. You know.
We can send you some information on that later. Like, I host a couple events here, so I'm sure if you have any questions on roles and bots and things, I could help out. I'm sure there are some other people here who have some more information.
About the Scriptcamp bot.
Yeah, we're just like a bit preoccupied right now. But later,
Thank you,
we'll
Gary.
probably do that.
I'll appreciate that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Gonna hold you up to it.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
and
JB.
thank you for the tips, Connor.
Sure. Are you all set on this, Gray? Any more questions on how this one would go, or just TV pitching in general?
I think if I ever do pitch something, I'll just like have all the points I want on an index card, not use it during the thing, but like just read that over and over and over to make sure I include it at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you're pitching for real, no one's gonna have a stopwatch. No one's gonna like forcibly cut you off unless you go way on. But
Yeah.
these sort of artificial, arbitrary cutoffs and rules and things are just to build those skills. So if in real life you went on a little more, or you you should be ready for them to start asking questions, and that is sort of part of your, like, if you have half an hour for a meeting, then if the entire time is spent talking about your TV show, then that was a very successful pitch, because that shows that they were interested and they were asking questions. If you see them, like, when you should be cutting it off earlier, or when they seem like they're utterly uninterested, which also does happen sometimes.
I guess it takes some reading the room, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Reading the room, and I guess being good in a room, which is a term that's used pretty often in the industry just to refer to, you have a lot of skills that are applicable to being in the room. A big part of that is just telling how engaged your listeners are.
That's another thing I need help with, the reading the room.
Oh yeah, I have trouble with that, JB. I'm also autistic.
I can't read. I have trouble reading the body language because of, I got high functioning autism.
Yeah. I'm autistic too. And I will say there's a lot of bullying and customer service work involved. But if you just like put yourself out there and persevere no matter what, you will absorb information much slower than like other people. But you can do it.
Wait, what?
Just like get experience talking to people. And like it's going to be painful and arduous, but like you can do it. Because I got a little bit better at it.
Yeah, because I know I want to try and be president of the United States one day.
Oh wow. Well,
Okay.
that's ambitious.
Well, there might
Definitely
be a different Discord camp for that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But thank you, Connor. We can move on to someone else's pitch.
Sure. Thank you, Gray.
There's one other thing I need to help me understand.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, what's the question?
Doggone it, I forgot what it was.
You forgot. That's okay. Feel free to use the text chat if you remember, and I'll check the text for questions.
Okay, I guess.
All right, so let's go to Somewhat Trashy with Equity for Misfits.
So I read the logline and all that first?
Well, start off with just the title, genre, and comps.
Alright.
I remember now. What are comps?
Oh, so comps are, I'll just explain this before Trashy does his pitch, but comps are comparable movies or TV shows to yours. So you have to pick two other existing movies or shows. At least one of them should be of the thing that you are pitching. So if you're pitching a show, one of them should be a show. But they are similar in tone or style or setting or plot to your own story, so that people know what they're getting into. They get a better sense of the story that you're pitching them before they even open it or read it.
Here, let me try one. Let me try.
It's cool.
Let me try one. Looks like someone laughed at the POTUS server.
So I think we're still in a pitching class at the moment, but so let's finish with our pitches first, and we'll have time for more questions and clarification at the end. We've got just 20 minutes left in the class.
Sorry.
No worries. All right, Trashy, so go ahead and read out your title, genre, and comps for us.
Alright, so it is called Equity for Misfits. It is a heist drama feature. Like a mix of Ocean's 11 and The Wire. When a recently retired serial thief drops out of the game following a fatal shooting, he is approached by his self-indulgent ex-best friend and convinced into committing one more heist.
All right. Thanks for that. So, is this a show or a movie?
It's a feature. It's a movie.
It's a movie. Okay, you may have said that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, when a recently retired serial thief drops out of the game following a fatal shooting, he is approached by his self-indulgent ex-best friend and convinced into committing one more heist. So this is all the issue with this logline is that this just at what point does that happen in the movie? Is that like 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in?
Yeah, this is like the beginning of the movie.
Right. So your logline is only the first 10 minutes of like a 90 to 120 minute long piece of entertainment. So we will need to know, and then what? I assume that the and then what is then he goes along and does the heist, right? But
Yeah.
we kind of want to know what the hook is beyond that. So, like, is there some interesting different tactic that the main character will be using? Does he have some, like, interesting uphill challenge that will make this journey more meaningful? Right now, it sort of just sounds like you're saying, this is a heist movie. See what I mean?
Yeah.
And the description in the logline, if it's just the first part, then we don't know what is happening in the majority of the story. So I'll let you go into the pitch, but maybe that can help you sort of start to rethink the logline and frame it by putting the hook first. So when inciting incident occurs, I like the basics and the generalities of the idea are fine. There's a shooting. You don't say if he's the one who does the shooting or someone on his crew was shot, but that's okay. I'm okay with that mystery. Just saying following a deadly shooting is a fine way to say that something went wrong and he no longer is a thief. But he must team up with his sort of ex-best friend to do blank specific difficult heist in blank specific interesting way, or with blank specific interesting obstacles, or like some kind of thing to draw us in and make us interested beyond just, oh, it's a heist. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You ready for the 90-second version?
Yeah, sure.
Take it whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, crime, especially robbery, has been a big part of Quinn's life for the last 11 years. After an accident during a heist with Kendrick, his ex-best friend, that ended up taking half of Quinn's finger, it was a bank robbery. He went back home with the hopes of starting over, but was left kind of bankrupt after the heist and coming away with nothing that time. So
I think we lost you. Are you there, Tashi?
yeah, my phone had cut off.
Oh, no problem. I'll pause your time. So the last thing we heard was he's broke after coming back home.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah, he is broke after coming back home, having come away with nothing after the job with Kendrick. So he ends up falling back in with an old gang that is in the area where he currently lives. And he commits a gun store robbery, which put him back on Kendrick's radar due to the fact that Quinn ended up killing someone during that robbery. After a few weeks, after a few weeks of having not done anything, like any more robberies or anything, Quinn is like, he finally thinks, okay, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, he's done with the crime, he's done with the robbery, he's lost too much. Little did he know that Kendrick was going to come walking back into his life. So Kendrick tracks him down via one of their mutuals and blackmails him into joining a heist that he's hosting via footage from the gun store robbery. He gives Quinn kind of like a day or two to decide whether or not he's gonna go through with it, or if he's gonna just let that information get out there. Quinn returns home and stuff to consider his options, which is prison or the heist. And his grandmother that he's taking care of kind of gives him words of encouragement, given that he's told her about the situation kind of vaguely. Something akin to, I've got this job and I'm really worried about it. she's like, oh, you can do anything you put your mind to, do what you can, do your best, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so he calls Kendrick that night and says, yeah, I got you. Just promise that nobody gets hurt. And that's one of the major hurdles. They can't just run in here guns blazing because Quinn's not going to be down for any of that. And Kendrick, being that the reason he wants Quinn in so bad is because they were friends and he wants to rekindle that friendship, he goes by his rules, by Quinn's rules. So they travel to New York, and Kendrick takes him to a museum to get a sense of the score, which is a $4 million set of paintings that they're being paid to steal on behalf of the family of the original artist. So those paintings have a lot of sentimental value to them. The plan is underway. There's motion sensors, security guard, and cameras, and a backplate behind the canvas that makes it impossible to move unless you have certain tech. So there's a lot going on that they have to kind of avoid. Also, a group of thieves who is trying to steal the paintings during that same week that they're out for display.
Oh, there's like a rival group of thieves?
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for this. I didn't cut you off, but that was 4 minutes for the whole thing. And I think my main feedback is that it took like 3 minutes for you to kind of get to the movie. I think your first 3 minutes of this pitch could have been summarized in 2 sentences.
Okay.
We didn't at the end. I was like, oh, it's a museum heist. It's an art heist. You should have been like, that should have been way up front. So like the details and the specifics of the job that they're on is much more interesting to us than the backstory and the catalyst. Like, we don't need to go into so much detail as to why this is happening. Like, you should be able to sum up why this is happening and what that situation is in just 2 or so sentences, which I think I could probably do. So let me just make sure I have the basics in place. So your main character is a robber, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and on a job with his best friend, a terrible tragedy happens, so he retires, or he thinks he's out of the game, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but then his best friend comes back into his life and offers him a new job.
Right.
Did we need all the other stuff around that?
No, I just got into the storytelling of it.
Right, but it's good to have those details and to know those things. I mean, you mentioned his grandmother and this sort of relationship there, and that's specific and interesting. But if it's the vast majority of it took like 75% of your time to leave the first 10 minutes of the movie, similar to the Logline. It just felt like this is all set up, and once we get to the actual situation, I start to be drawn in a little bit. But you've already lost the listener a long time ago. If it were not me. The specific, like, robbing paintings from a museum could be kind of cool. So that's kind of gonna if it's a heist or a crime movie, the specifics of the crime are gonna be a big part of the fun. I would say, similar to in a horror movie, the specifics of the threat are the fun. The monster, right? The monster, the killer, whatever it is. That's usually going to be even the title of the movie. In a thriller, the situation is sort of the hook. It's like this pressure cooker that you put people in that they can only get out of it by doing desperate, dangerous things. For a heist story, the specific thing they're stealing, why they're stealing it, and the dangers and difficulties that will be in the way of them stealing it, that's what we want to know about. So I like how you eventually got to, they have to steal these paintings, that the family is trying to get these paintings back from a museum. You might mention if you have some more unique obstacles. I mean, we've seen lasers and pressure sensors and these things like that before. So if there's anything else you can bring out of that you think we maybe haven't seen as much before, maybe you're like, the head of security is an obsessive robotics engineer who has like robots patrolling the museum that will shoot any intruders or something like that. You don't have to do that, but like, you see how I mean, you just want to, if it's like, if you think, what are some security measures? Lasers, locks, timers, sensors. I can just come up with those off the top of my head. So if there's something that we wouldn't have come up with off the top of our head, then that will help make it distinguish itself from just a description of the genre. if it just sounds like the sort of plot beats that we could expect from any movie of this type, then it sounds like a description of the genre. It doesn't sound like a specific take on a movie. And moreover, just your main character could use a little more emphasis, perhaps. You might explain why this is so important for him, or what traits are tying him to this story. It sounds like there's nothing that would actually make him want to reconnect with his ex-best friend because he's dangerous to be around, and they don't like each other anymore. You are saying they want to rekindle their friendship, though?
One of them does. The other one does not.
So the villain does, or the hero does?
The villain does.
The villain does. Okay, but so the hero doesn't actually have... He's only going along with this because he's been blackmailed, which is... It's okay, but I mean, we see this a lot in this sort of plot type, but it's, nothing terribly wrong with it. It does sound like, though, that the arc of their journey is going to be main character just hating this guy more and more and more. So I guess I would invest more in that if it was like they were actually best friends and they wish they were best friends again, and the main character is like upset that they fell out in some kind of way. If it's just going to be a purely animosity, like a purely animosity-based relationship, if it's just going to be ex-best friend wants to be his friend again, but our main character doesn't, I can't quite see that relationship going anywhere interesting beyond I hate you and I want to get out of this, right? So if there was a reason why your main character might actually want to rekindle that, maybe if they were brothers or something like that, there would be more of a reason. So something to, or they were like, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but some reason for us to invest in that relationship a little bit more. But the majority of this, I'm going to say, try not to start the movie at the end of the pitch. You got to start that like pretty close to the beginning, and then we'll be leaning in. We'll be like, oh, okay, an art museum heist. That's kind of different. I don't see a lot of those. I wonder what the specific, unique uphill challenges of that will be, and how the main character's flaws will complicate that journey, and how the central relationships that you've outlined will complicate and make that journey more difficult, but also more rewarding and satisfying. So that's like 100 things I just threw at you, but does that make sense just in terms of basic clarity and focus of the story, where to be spending your words and attention?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Any big questions on this?
None. I'm good.
Awesome. Okay.
Well, can I do mine?
You have a question, or you have a pitch that you want to do?
Pitch.
Okay, give us 1 second. Let me just check the chat to see if any other members have posted questions to get to. Any other questions before we move to another pitch? We have 10 minutes left in class. Questions from anyone?
I wanted to mention, sorry if it's out of line, but do you think recently retired and dropped out of the game is redundant?
I would say so, yeah. Let me bring it back up.
That's exactly what I thought when I wrote
Right.
Wait a second. I was like, hold up.
Yeah. If you're
a
trying
retired
to
thief would not drop out of the game. He's already out of it. Good point, Gray. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, I will have time for one more then. JB, if you want to pitch something, it looks like this is something you've seen before, you can go ahead and start by reading the title and genre and comps here.
Now, before I start, I want to know, is an alias the same thing as a nickname?
Yeah, usually.
All right. Okay, now here's it's my version of the Sonic thing,
Okay, so go ahead with the title, genre, and comps for us.
Sonic the Hedgehog. It's an action adventure. It's a feature, like a mix of Transformers and Sonic the Hedgehog, but original, and won't be subject to plagiarism.
Okay, fair enough. I will say for comps, you normally can't comp the same thing, or if it's if we're going to say, I'm going to do a remake of Tarzan, you can't comp Tarzan. You would have to comp something else. So if you can think of something else that it would combine with, then that might be a place to start, but not a huge deal.
What'd you say? Sorry, the ring went off. My ring app went off.
So what I said was that you typically can't compare something to itself. So if you were doing a remake of if you're writing your own Frankenstein movie, you can't comp Frankenstein. So if you can think of something else instead of Sonic the Hedgehog as your second comp, that would be better. But it's not a huge deal at this point.
Well, it's my version. Remember, I had this idea since 2010.
Right, but comp means we're comparing it to something that exists in the world, so like a movie that has been released, but it shouldn't be the same movie, or it shouldn't have the same title.
Okay, I just guess I'm kind of confused with that part.
That's okay. All right, so you want to read out your logline for us?
Okay. Okay. Let me fix it while I'm doing that.
Okay.
A slight malfunction causes chaos control and sends Sonic the Hedgehog and his friends to Earth. While there, Sonic meets an unnamed character. I haven't finalized the name yet. Who aids in collecting both the Master Emerald and the Chaos Emeralds, so Sonic and his friends can go home to Planet Mobius, which is in an alternate universe or parallel universe.
Right.
That's not part of the thing. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you for that. So let me give you feedback on the logline before you move into the pitch. The first sentence says, a slight malfunction causes chaos control and sends Sonic that... So I don't know what chaos control means or is, and your listener, unless they're familiar with the franchise, won't know what that means either. So you need to kind of define certain terms and try to condense this all into one sentence, if ever possible. And most of the time it is possible. So you got to make sure that the audience won't be confused by dropping terms or fantasy lingo or sci-fi elements that we're not familiar with right away, because then we just won't know what that looks like or means.
Oh, I can't explain what chaos control in that log line though, right?
No, you'd want to you want to explain it in terms of what it is. So a slight malfunction causes what, like a dimensional rift or like a portal, or explain it and just call it something like in terms of that we'll know what it is.
It's something that causes everyone to be transported to somewhere. I don't know.
Okay, so like a portal or a dimensional anomaly or something like that.
Probably, I think.
Okay, yeah, I think in the movie.
I'm not 100% sure.
Right. But so yeah, just don't you can't use terms that we won't know, because then your audience will just be like, what? So you need to. So the names of the characters don't matter, and in fact, we shouldn't really be using the names of characters in the pitch or in the logline unless it's a real existing person or a public domain famous character. For instance, I don't know, if you were commissioned to write this movie, you might be able to say Sonic the Hedgehog. We know who that is. But for the unnamed character that he meets, that sounds like it might be the central relationship of your movie, and we need
a human character. It's a human character.
Oh, a human character. Okay, so you would want to tell us who that person is. So I realize...
Yeah. They'll try to figure out the name, and I have trouble doing that.
Right, well, we don't need a name as much as we need to know who they are. So, like, in the existing Sonic the Hedgehog movie, isn't he a highway patrol officer?
No.
He's not?
I kind of base the idea off Sam. He's kind of more like Sam Witwicky in a way.
Okay, but so I'm talking about in the existing movie, that's who that person is. So you need to describe your character in similar terms. You know, a jaded detective, think of, like, their job is a good place to start.
A high school student, most likely, I think.
Okay, sure, a high school student. So pick an adjective to describe that person, and then say, high school, like a reckless high school senior, something like that. Yeah, so that's more important than their name.
All right, maybe you can help me with this one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, during our lab sessions, you can come in with whatever questions you have. Those are usually on Saturdays.
All right, I think that this might be a good way to test it, test the idea, since I'm trying hard to get this. Since the idea is already out there, I thought maybe I could just try this one first off, but try to still perfect it to start off, you know what I mean, right?
Right. Okay. So, we'll let you go ahead to the pitch part if you want. We only have a few minutes left in class, so there will be a hard cutoff if you go longer than 3 minutes. But do you think you're ready to just try to explain the story from, like, beginning to basically the middle? You don't have to go all the way through to the end. Just tell us to about the middle and then suggest what happens throughout the rest of it. Or do you...
Well, I know
You don't have to do it if you don't want to today, but if you think do you want to try taking a swing at it?
No, I don't think.
Not today. Okay, that's all right. But hopefully listening to the other pitches gave you some ideas of things to be paying attention to and to watch out for. We have recordings of our other pitch workshops online as well, so other stuff to look back at.
Including this one?
There will be a recording of this one, yes.
All right, you'll send me the link to it, right?
Yeah, we'll post it in the chat here.
I mean personally, just in case if I don't miss it.
Sure, I can send you the link. All right, so that is our pitching time for today. So that is the end of this course. This was 4 weeks on just communicating stories efficiently. Hopefully we've given you a push in the right direction if you weren't sure what pitching involves or requires. Did someone have a comment? Oh, no, maybe not. So after this course is done, we are trying to decide what goes in this slot next. So Nacho, do you want to weigh in here? We're trying to decide whether to do another pitch bootcamp or to move into rewrite.
Yeah, so the current rewrite bootcamp class will be wrapping up in a couple weeks, and then this was Saturdays from noon to 2 p.m. So just curious what you guys think, if you found this class helpful, or would you be more interested in seeing another session of the rewrite bootcamp or a pitch bootcamp on May 21st?
May I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
That could be helpful. Why not do a Google Calendar type of thing? That way we can download the calendar and then we can get notified of when the event is.
Well, we have a calendar on our website, scriptcamp.net.
It's downloadable.
I don't think it's downloadable, but go ahead, Nacho.
It does have a Google Calendar link on the events, so you can actually open up an event and you can add it to your Google Calendar.
Great.
Yeah, because I can't see the link because it's blurry. It's blurry on my iPad.
Okay, well, I just dropped a link in the chat, so feel free to click on that if you want. That's a calendar of all our upcoming events.
Right, if you like, you can still message me about the after you accept my friend request,
Okay.
in the chat.
I just sent it to you, so you should have a link to our calendar there.
Guys, I'm not sure this is too specific, but would you consider a dialogue class?
Yeah, we've done a couple. Go ahead, Nacho.
There's one coming up on.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the June 15th and 16th. There's a two-part class. It's going to be like 4 hours, all about just dialogue.
Let's see, series finale class. Maybe that's too esoteric to really be useful to everybody.
Series finale, like the end of a show?
Are there like rules for that, or is it just like too variable for you to like give any helpful tips on that?
Well, I've never written a season finale, and most screenwriters won't. That's something for like showrunners once they have a show to worry about. So
okay.
Yeah, we're never really writing the end of seasons. We're not even writing episodes of the show beyond the pilot. So
no, I see.
I guess in theory, if I mean, we could try to give pointers on that, but that just is something so far, like, I don't think any of us have done that before, including our guests.
Yeah, okay. In that case, I don't have any ideas, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
I totally missed the dialogue one.
No problem. Yeah, and also, if you look back at the playwriting classes, Morgan talks a lot about dialogue, so might be something to check out the videos for.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Sponsor clarification of.
But I think another one of these classes would actually be okay.
Another pitch camp?
Like the one more class. Yeah, just one more. Is it going to be starting it over, or just the one last class?
Well, it would be similar in format to this. We would have different slides and different examples and different guests, but the same format at least. Good to know that you might be interested in that, though. Thank you, Lazima. Did JB have a question?
Comps or clarification of tone if needed. That's probably something I need help with. Like like there's some stuff on this thing I need help with still.
Okay, well, yep, we have lots of we have chat channels that, like, this class is almost over, so I'm glad to answer a question right now. You can also just ask for more information in our chats if you want to. But so comps and clarification of tone. Comps are going to be those two movies that you choose that suggest the kind of movie that yours is. And clarification of tone is going to be used to explain the nuance or the specific take that you are using on the project. If you're doing a monster movie that might be really serious and scary, like A Quiet Place, or it might be really kind of funny and goofy, like Tremors. So you gotta that's when you clarify, what is the movie supposed to sort of feel like?
Okay.
All right.
Anyway,
go
can you
ahead.
send me the video too?
Link to the video of this class?
Yeah,
If you scroll up to the announcements channel, it's right there. Or I'll
Go
post
to
it
the
in here.
announcements channel.
Yep.
So let me do that. Give me a second.
There's a link for you there.
Oh, did you just put it in the direct chat?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna wait for it to, I'm waiting for it to come on.
Okay.
I haven't got it yet.
So it's in the chat channel for free pitch class.
Oh, it's not in my direct channel. Direct messaging. It's in the.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, check the free pitch class chat channel. You can find the link to the YouTube video there. We are also on Twitch and Twitter.
Oh, so it's a YouTube video too.
Yeah, we're streaming onto YouTube. So as we're recording this, it's going to be uploaded to YouTube, and then it'll be there to check back and review later. All right. Any other questions anyone has here, or classes that you would like to see coming up?
Well, how to get past the writer's block.
How to get past writer's block? Okay, that's a good question. And I'm not sure if I would do a whole class on it, but I can just give some general tips on that, or you could come to lab if you have specific questions. Go ahead.
Because my problem is I got the idea, but I don't know how to write the story.
Okay, so the solution might be to go to one of our feature writing classes, because the feature class is basically how to write a movie beginning to end. So we have a feature bootcamp that goes through every single step of how to write a movie.
Alrighty.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Any other questions or suggestions for classes or courses you guys would like to see?
I just thought this one was really helpful, so thank y'all hosts for this.
Thanks for coming by, and thanks for pitching.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we have a referral program. You can refer a friend. Oh, did you have a question? Go ahead, Lizima.
No, I was just saying thanks also.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
For all the help.
So refer a friend. You will get discounted membership. They will get a discount. You will get a full free month. You can do that as many times as you want. So please refer your friends. We're going to call the class for today, but we have a bunch of stuff coming up. We have table reads today at 4, don't we, Gray?
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
Is there an easier way to cut just to excerpt a few pages out of the script?
Sorry.
Other than just copying and pasting it and making another document.
Oh, you mean to excise pages from your script?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it depends on what program you're using, but if you go to print the script, you can designate which pages you want to actually print, and instead of selecting a printer, you can usually, on most devices, you can select print to PDF instead. If you do that, it might output as an image-based PDF rather than a text-based, so there might be a problem there. But through printing is how I normally do that. Otherwise, just copying and pasting it into a new document is the easiest way. Different software might have the option to just export certain pages, so check your export settings. And if you're in WriterDuet, I think if you don't just click on export default PDF, make sure to go to File, Export, or maybe check just the settings that you have, and then I believe there's a way to do it. But let me look into that more. Usually the easiest way will just be to copy them, open a new file, and paste them into the new document.
Hey, I subscribed to your channel, by the way.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, thank you. You can subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, any of these places, and get notified when we post new videos or have new free events. So we're going to call class for today. So Nacho and Gray, our table reads at 4 o'clock today?
Yes.
Yes, they are. Okay, so come bring up to 5 pages of a script that you have written, and you can read it with the group and get feedback on it. Anything else you guys want to share or tell people about?
Yes.
That? Go ahead.
Starting next Sunday, we're going to be doing feature pilot table reads. And there's a form that we'll be posting the announcements that you guys can use to sign up. And it costs 100 script coin for complete pilot or feature table read. And so, yeah, and if you're unlimited member, you'll all be getting some coins today, and otherwise you can also earn coins by just giving feedback and helping people out. And if you go to the Loglines channel, look at people's loglines, post your feedback, scripts channel, so on. Just and if you read a part, you also earn coins. So and we'll read your complete feature or pilot.
You can rack up currency generally by participating, paying attention, and especially staying for the whole thing if you can. Try to help other people as much as they help you.
Thanks, guys. So yeah, that's our read squad. Gray is going to be leading most of those reads. And Nacho, if you do not know, is our co-founder and runs a few classes a week and many different events on the server. So thanks, guys. Thanks for coming by. We are going to call it for now. We'll see you at the next class or event. Thanks for coming.
Bye.